Bitcoin's price drops as the German government unloads over $900 million worth of Bitcoin. And so in this video, we're going to look at how wallets that have been linked to the German government still hold some 23,000 Bitcoin, meaning that it has already sold more than half of its seized assets. Today's episode is sponsored by Cake Wallet, where you can send, receive, and even exchange your crypto right from within the wallet. Cake Wallet is open source and non-custodial, so you control your own private keys, available today on iOS, macOS, Android, and Linux. And StealthEX, a privacy-centric crypto exchange which enables you to make crypto-to-crypto exchanges anonymously. Good afternoon everybody, and a warm welcome again to Enter Crypto with me, Chris Kenyon. Now in today's video we're going to be talking about the recent sale by the German government of a boatload of Bitcoin. They've still got about half left. Now I found an article on this, so let's just quickly jump straight in, read it, see what it's about, and then we'll comment after. So Bitcoin fell on Monday afternoon in Europe as the German government transferred over $900 million worth of assets from its Bitcoin holdings, blockchain data shows. According to blockchain data platform Arkham Intelligence, Bitcoin wallets labelled as belonging to the German government moved a total of roughly 16,309 Bitcoin in several batches to external addresses, including to crypto exchanges Bitstamp, Kraken and Coinbase, and market makers Flow Traders and Cumberland DRW. Bitcoin's price dropped 3% to as low as 55k shortly after the last group of blockchain transactions totaling 8,700 Bitcoin. Later it rebounded to slightly above 56k, which is still down 1.2% over the past 24 hours. The price action came after last week's slide to the lowest price since February, and market observers pointed to a massive supply overhang coming to the market during the relatively quiet and low volume summer season, with the German and US governments apparently selling seized assets just as the defunct crypto exchange Mt. Gox starts to issue repayments. With the latest transfers, the German government is more than halfway through its selling spree, with holdings now reduced to 23,000 Bitcoin, worth $1.3 billion from 50,000 Bitcoin since it started unloading tokens last month. This is according to Arkham data. And so what we're going to cover in this video is a few points. First one being, how did the German government actually acquire this Bitcoin? The second point we're going to cover is, how do they manage these seized assets? And lastly, why have they sold it? What are the reasons for selling Bitcoin? And so firstly, the German government, as many governments around the world, acquire their Bitcoin, not from buying it obviously, but from seizures. They seize it from criminal activity. So this is, obviously primarily from law enforcement actions. And so the majority of the Bitcoin held by this, particular government, the German government, comes from law enforcement actions where crypto was seized from criminal companies or enterprises or even individuals. And this includes operations against dark net markets, cybercrime, it could be things like tax evasion or money laundering. So there's lots and lots of ways that the governments can come across Bitcoin, acquire it, and then obviously they don't give it back to the individual or the companies. They end up prosecuting them, and then it's finished. So they just end up with loads and loads of Bitcoin, and they've got Ethereum and all kinds of other crypto. One particular case, or a notable case, was a shutdown of the marketplace Hydra, where significant amounts of Bitcoin were seized. There was quite a lot, and there's in Germany alone, there's been loads of cases. Ransomware attacks where perpetrators were apprehended, and then they've ended up getting their assets confiscated. And I think that the German government, I know different governments do it different ways, but I believe the German government doesn't actually hold its own Bitcoin and its own crypto. It actually uses a custodian, so it'll use a third-party custodian to manage and secure these assets. There are some governments like the US and I believe the UK actually custody it themselves, so they hold the private keys. In this particular case, it's a custodian usually. And so once they've seized these assets, it's usually the police or the security services that end up doing this in the initial stages. They can't just sell it straight away, obviously, because there needs to be due process, court proceedings and legal processes where the ownership and the legality of the seizure itself are verified through court proceedings. And then only after that, once they've got legal confirmation, then the government can dispose of these assets. And so once it's got this kind of permission from the courts and the case is over, the prosecution have finished and it's all been done and everyone's been sentenced, German government then will usually, now they've been legally authorised, can decide to liquidate that seized Bitcoin. And typically it involves selling it to, fairly on the open market. Now let's focus on reasons for selling Bitcoin. Why do governments sell Bitcoin, and why is the German government doing this? The simple answer to that is, well, there's a couple of things to consider, but the first one is just simply as monetization. Governments need revenue, and if they're just sat on a load of Bitcoin, it's not doing anything for them as far as they're concerned. They don't have the same faith in crypto like we do, and so it's just another asset for them. It's just like gold or art or anything. They'll just sell it. It's not interesting for a government. So selling seized Bitcoin, basically for them, it'll convert digital assets into fiat currency, into the euro, which can then be used for things like government budgets or to fund specific initiatives that they want to run. Another thing that they can liquidate assets for is to return funds, because in some cases the proceeds from these sales that the government has can actually be returned back to victims of crime. So I mean, that depends on the circumstances of the seizure, obviously, and everything in the legal process, but it does sometimes result in victims being paid back. And even in some cases they'll give the Bitcoin back. If it was a Bitcoin theft, they won't sell it. They'll just give the Bitcoin back to the victim once they're sure that everything's above board. And they do usually do a kind of gradual sale. So if they've got a lot of Bitcoin to sell, like in this case, you'll see that they'll be doing it in a few thousand at a time, which I know is a lot for your average person, but for any government, it's not a lot. They are funny. I've even heard them saying that they don't want to, they want to minimise market disruption by selling little and lots of little batches. But really, I think it's just to avoid slippage, quite honestly, because crypto is not that big when it comes to governments, so they can affect the market. If they sold a massive wad, it would affect the market. Just the news, actually, the news of a government like Germany selling a load of Bitcoin can spook the market. Now, it's obviously not going to do anything long term, but short term it will. Over the next few hours or a couple of days, it might cause a price drop. So it's an interesting article there. That's what I've got for you today, guys. As always, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on that notifications bell so that you don't miss out on any future updates. And I'll see you all tomorrow. Take care.